I thought he was just being kind, just another one of those people who show up in life at the right time to lend a hand when you least expect it. Nothing more, nothing less. But life has a way of proving you wrong, of twisting kindness into something deeper, something you never saw coming, and something that changes you forever. It started on an ordinary Tuesday in late September. The air had that crisp, in-between feeling, not quite summer but not yet fall. I had just gotten off work, dragging my tired body toward the small coffee shop I always stopped at for a cup of chamomile tea. My job at the publishing house was draining that week, deadlines, late nights, and far too many manuscript edits. My eyes felt heavy, and my shoulders ached as I pushed open the glass door. The place was warm, filled with the comforting aroma of roasted coffee beans and baked pastries. My favorite table by the window was taken, so I stood in line, trying not to care, when a man ahead of me glanced back. His eyes were the kind that caught you off guard, soft, but piercing, the color of storm clouds before rain. He smiled politely, just enough to acknowledge me, then turned back to the cashier. When it was his turn, he ordered a black coffee and a slice of blueberry pie. Then, without missing a beat, he added, "And whatever she's having," gesturing toward me. I blinked, startled. "Oh, no, you don't have to." He looked back, smiling wider this time. "I insist. Consider it a good deed for the day." The cashier gave me a questioning look, and I stammered out, "Chamomile tea, please." Before I could protest again, the man swiped his card, grabbed his coffee and pie, and stepped aside. When I got my tea, he was already seated at the very table I wanted, the one by the window. And then he did something unexpected. He gestured toward the empty chair across from him. "Unless you'd rather sit alone," he said, his voice calm, unhurried. I hesitated. Everything in me wanted solitude, but there was something disarming about him, something that made me curious. Against my better judgment, I nodded and sat down. We didn't speak much at first. I stirred my tea, he ate his pie, and for a while, the only sound was the soft hum of conversations around us. But then he asked about the book I had in my hand, and that was it. The dam broke. We talked about stories, about the power of words to change people, about music, travel, and even the little quirks of life that made us laugh. His name was Nathan. He worked in architecture, designing houses that he said were more about feeling than structure. I liked that. It sounded romantic, even though he said it so matter-of-factly. When I left that evening, I told myself it was just a kind stranger's gesture, a one-time encounter. He paid for my tea, shared a conversation, and that was all. But the very next day, when I walked into the same coffee shop, he was there again. Same table, same smile. "Thought you might show up," he said. And somehow, without realizing it, we fell into a rhythm. For weeks, we met at that little coffee shop, at the same table by the window. Sometimes he bought me tea, sometimes I insisted on paying. We talked about everything, from silly childhood memories to dreams we didn't share with anyone else. It felt easy. Natural. But I kept telling myself he was just being kind. That's all. One evening, it was pouring rain. I had forgotten my umbrella, and when I stepped outside, the sky let loose like it had been holding back all day. Before I could groan about it, Nathan appeared beside me, holding out his umbrella. "Looks like you need rescuing," he teased. I laughed, embarrassed, but grateful. We walked together, huddled under the small umbrella, shoulders brushing, the rain splashing around us. My apartment wasn't far, but I didn't want the walk to end. By the time we reached my building, I was soaked at the edges, my hair sticking to my face. "Thank you," I whispered, looking up at him. He looked at me then, really looked, like he was seeing past everything I tried to hide. For a moment, I thought he might kiss me. But he didn't. He just nodded, gave a small smile, and said, "See you tomorrow." That night, I couldn't sleep. My heart wouldn't settle. I told myself again he was just kind, just thoughtful, just friendly. But the way he looked at me, that wasn't kindness. That was something else entirely. Weeks turned into months, and our friendship deepened. He came to know me in ways even my closest friends didn't. He noticed when I was exhausted, when I was hiding sadness, when I was proud of something but too shy to say it aloud. And I noticed him too, the way he drummed his fingers when he was nervous, the way he got quiet when talking about his father who had passed away, the way his eyes lit up when he described building a home that made people feel safe. One night, we went to a small concert in the park. The band was local, the music soft and folksy, and the air smelled of grass and food trucks. We sat on a blanket, shoulders touching, and for once, I didn't question it. I let myself lean into him, my head resting lightly against his shoulder. He didn't move. He didn't speak. But I felt his breath hitch, and his hand brushed against mine, tentative but deliberate. He didn't grab it, didn't force it, just let his fingers linger until I laced mine through his. And in that moment, everything shifted. I realized it wasn't kindness that kept bringing him to that coffee shop. It wasn't politeness that made him listen so intently to every word I said. It wasn't mere thoughtfulness that made him walk me home, or remember my favorite tea, or share pieces of himself so openly. It was love. Quiet, steady, patient love. I looked up at him under the fading lights of the stage, and he was already looking at me. This time, there was no hesitation. He leaned down, and our lips met in a kiss that felt like it had been waiting for months. When we pulled back, I laughed softly, nervous but happy. I thought you were just being kind. He shook his head, smiling in that gentle way he always did. Kind, yes. But never just kind. From that night forward, nothing was the same, and yet everything was. Our daily coffees became dates. Our walks became longer. My apartment began to feel like his too, filled with laughter and the smell of his cologne. We cooked together, argued over silly things like movies, and dreamed about what could be. There were challenges, of course. Work pulled me in 100 directions, and his job had him traveling often. There were nights we missed each other, days when exhaustion made us short-tempered. But underneath it all was that same steady love, that same unspoken promise. Months later, on another rainy evening, he pulled me under the same umbrella where it all began. He looked at me with those storm-colored eyes and said, "You changed everything for me." And I finally understood. What I thought was kindness had been love all along, patiently waiting for me to see it. And when I whispered, "I love you too," the rain didn't matter. Nothing else did. Because I realized then, love doesn't always crash into your life like a storm. Sometimes, it arrives quietly, disguised as kindness, until one day you see it for what it truly is.